Hey guys, it's Amy and it's Toy Tuesday, and I am unveiling the new Courtney doll, the historical Courtney doll from American Girl Place. She came out last Wednesday. Her year is 1986, and I'm going to talk about her, unbox her in a second. I have a few of her fashions, and I have one of her accessories. I'm also going to review the book that I read. I took the book out of the box, and I read it. I'm going to review that in a second, tell you what I think. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the company, Pleasant Company, which is now owned by Mattel. So let's start with the history. This is my Molly, my first American Girl. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the Pleasant Company and American Girl. So American Girl was started in 1986 by Pleasant Rowland. She was a teacher, and she was looking for dolls or toys for her nieces. And she couldn't find anything at the time. Now, this was probably the early 80s, early to mid 80s. And a lot of the dolls at the time they focused on adoption, but none of them were really educational. There was Cabbage Patch Kids, which were focused on adoption. So were My Child's, Cricket. A lot of the dolls were talking, but nothing really. I mean, some of them later in the 80s, in the late 80s, came out with books that she would tell you a story, but nothing that was really educational. So she was at Colonial Williamsburg, and she saw something there, and she got the idea to create 3 historical dolls, and also have them be historical, and also have them be a character. So they would come with a book. You would buy the book with the doll, or you could buy just the doll, or you could buy just the book. So the first 3 characters were Samantha, who was 1904, and this is pretty much what the book looked like, the cover. What the book looked like in 1986. So you had Samantha, who was 1904, Kirsten, who was 1854, and then you had Molly, who was 1944. And Kirsten was from Sweden, and Kirsten comes over to America with her parents, and she sails over, and she gets lost in New York, separated from her parents, and she doesn't speak a word of English. Which I think now Molly is discontinued as well as Kirsten. Samantha was discontinued, but they brought her back a few years ago. And Kirsten would be really great right now because a lot of, we're having some immigration issues in this country. And that would be good to teach girls that just because you don't speak English doesn't mean you're stupid, you just speak a different language. So I think this would be a really good book to bring back, a really good character to bring back from that aspect of her story. Especially if you're immigrating to this country. It's scary. You don't know where you are. You probably travel a really long way. You don't speak the language. And it's a scary time. So this would be a really good book to bring back. A really good character and book to bring back. So that's Kirsten. And like I said, the first books, and there is this reason I'm going to show you this. So the first books looked like this. There were 6 books in each series, and they were mostly the same title. So there was Happy Birthday Samantha, Happy Birthday Molly, Happy Birthday Kirsten. There was Meet Molly, Meet Kirsten, Meet Samantha, and they all had the same look and the same title. And this was Pleasant Company. So, they rechanged the covers of the book in 89, late 80s. So I received this. This is actually my copy. Those are library books. But I received let me finish the history. So, they added some more characters. And then in 1995, they were sold to Mattel, and they came out with, I believe it was Truly Me, and they've changed the name over the years a few times. But the premise is it's the same dolls, and you pick out your hair color, your eye color, Some dolls have freckles, some dolls have different skin tones, face molds, and that's truly me. And you can get modern outfits for them, mostly stuff that pertains to a 9-year-old girl. So soccer, ballet, cooking, camping, those are the themes that they've come up with. And they've done that for about, literally, almost like 15 years, or 20 years. But I received, and I'm going to give you a little history of my history with American Girl. So I received the book in '86 when I was in the 3rd grade, and I was turning 9 years old. I received Meet Kirsten, and I never really read the book. I was into other books at the time, but I never read the book. But I noticed in every book, including the new ones, in the back of the book, there is in the back of this book, that's a library book, there is a giveaway, there's a send away. So you can send away for a catalog, and it shows all the historical dolls. Now, when I was in the 3rd grade, there was only 3. There was Kirsten, Samantha, and Molly. So you can get Kirsten, Samantha, and Molly. And at the time, there were a couple things that really drew this to me. I was really into Little House on the Prairie, so I loved Kirsten's outfits. And I was really into The Secret Garden by the time I was in the 5th grade. So I was really obsessed with Samantha, because that's the same time, 1904, 1911, which is when The Secret Garden takes place. So I was really into these dolls. And when I see dolls, I'm like, nah. So I was really obsessed with these, and I carried around the catalog. Now, at the time, that there was no store. Today, there's multiple stores around the country. Some have closed, but the New York store, the Chicago store are still open and running. But at the time, the only way to get these dolls was to send away for a catalog and to order from the catalog. And my mom just did not do that. So I carried around the catalog for like 3 years. And then I bought this book at a bookstore when we were on vacation in Maine, and I read it on the way on the trip, and I really liked it. And she was the closest to the 50s. I was also obsessed with the 50s at the time, and she was the closest to the 50s that I could find. So I loved how she had saddle shoes, and she wore rolled up jeans, and it was World War II, so it was like, it was really cool. It was, and I really loved Molly. So I fell in love with Molly, but I never got the chance to get the doll until I worked at the American Girl store in New York City. I worked there when it first opened. We opened the store, and I worked in Bitty Baby. It was only seasonal, but I loved it. I was ecstatic. I loved working in American Girl. I wish I could have stayed, but I was not hired back then. But at the time, my birthday was coming up when I got the job, and I decided for my birthday I wanted a Molly. So I got my Molly doll. I was 23 years old, but I finally got my Molly doll, and I love her, and she's been with me ever since, and I love Molly. So I get the catalogs. I love looking through the catalogs. I love American Girl. I have some of her outfits. I have some of her accessories. They are a little pricey, but I think for the quality you get, they're worth it. And people save them, and that's why, I mean, people love them. So, and they're a toy that adults and children can enjoy. So when I found out that Courtney was coming out from 1986, I saw her unveiling, sort of, her shadow, that came out in February at Toy Fair, and I knew she was going to be 1980s, and I was so excited because she looked like she had leg warmers, she had big hair, and I was so excited, and I couldn't wait, and I kept checking and checking and checking, and I found out on last Tuesday, that she was coming out. She would be unveiled on Hoda and Jenna on NBC, and I was like, I have to get her. I just have to get her. So I ordered her, even before the show was finished. I ordered 2 accessories that I really liked, and an outfit that I really liked, and I got the doll, and I was so excited. And so I came home, as soon as she came on Thursday, because I believe I ordered her on Tuesday, and she came on Thursday. She came 2 days later. I read the book, and I'm going to give you a little review of the book. So before we get to our unveiling. So this is Courtney. Her name is Courtney Moore. She's 9 years old. She's in the 3rd grade. She loves video games. She hangs out a lot at the Orange Valley Mall. That's where she lives. She lives in Orange Valley, California. She lives with her stepfather, her mother, and her stepsister, Tina, and her little brother, her 2-year-old brother, Rafi. Her father and mother are divorced, which at the time a lot of people were either getting divorced or already had been divorced. I like the fact that her parents were already divorced, and because my parents were divorced when I was young. I was only a year and a half. So she was 2 when her parents were divorced. And so she lives with her mother and father, who are already married, already have another child, but she also has to share a room with her stepsister, who is 13, and obsessed with MTV. So she spends most of her time at the mall, because that's what we did in the 80s. We went to the mall, and we shopped, and we hung out, and we ate, and we went to the movies, and we played video games. You could do anything at the mall. So she spends a lot of time there because her father has an electronics store in the mall. So she spends all her days after school in the mall. And both of her parents work. Her mother works for the parks department for the town, and her mother has decided in the book to run for mayor, which was at the time was pretty controversial because there were not a lot of women in office. There were a few women in higher office. There was Geraldine Ferraro, who ran for president, but not a lot of women ran, and there were not a lot of women for office. So her mother is a groundbreaker, which also coincides with the fact that the Challenger, so this book takes place in January of 1986. And the older books, all the older books come out, all the years for older books have a 4 at the end of them. So there's 1904, 1954, 1944, 1854. This one comes out in 86. And I think the reason they did that was for a few reasons. One was to put in the Challenger disaster, which happened on January 28th, 1986. It was also the year that American Girl came out. So, and it might be in a new book that hasn't come out yet, but there is an accessory for a small Molly doll. So apparently in the story, her storyline, she misses her father. Her father moves away, pretty far away, because he gets a new job. So he's like 3 hours away. So she misses him. So for Christmas, he buys her a Meet Molly book and a Molly doll. So you can get a mini Molly, and a mini, the mini version is a Pleasant Company version of Molly. So they did that to coincide with that. But the Challenger disaster happens. At the time, she comes back from must be Christmas vacation, and her schoolroom is decorated in all space, and her teacher is really excited about Krista McCall. And if you don't know what that is, Krista McCall was the first civilian in space, or was supposed to be the first civilian in space. She was also a teacher. They had a big contest for the first teacher in space, and she was picked. So she went up in space, and she was going to teach lessons from space and do experiments and do live satellites from space to teach her students. Unfortunately, the Challenger exploded, and all 7 of the astronauts on board died. And it was on live TV, and a lot of kids at the time were watching the Challenger go up because everybody was so inspired, and it was a great lesson, and she was a woman, and it was a lot of things going on. So it was very tragic. It was almost like our 9/11. I don't remember it. I don't remember watching it on TV. I do remember going home and sitting in front of the TV and watching Ronald Reagan speak about it, because I believe it was either snowing or it was too cold out because it was the end of January to go outside and play. So we were at the daycare at the babysitter's house, and that's where I went after school, and that's what we watched. So I remember sitting there watching that. But in the book, she actually does watch the Challenger go up in space. She does watch it explode. It's very traumatic for her. especially because her mother is running for mayor, and both of them are groundbreakers. So she sees a lot of her mother and Kristen McAuliffe, so it really affects her. So that's Courtney, and I did like the book. There's a lot of pop culture references in the book. One thing that I did, reading this book as a 43-year-old versus a 9-year-old, it's a little sugar-coated. I know being from a broken family or a mixed family is not the easiest thing to grow up with, and I know a lot of step-parents tend to favor their children over their stepchildren, so it's very, as an adult, it's hard to believe that this is, this loving family is, but it happens, so I'm sure that for a 9-year-old, this is a really good book to read, especially if you're from a mixed family. But the other thing that I really kind of was a little concerned about is the way they reacted to MTV. They mentioned it a few times because Tina is 13, she comes home, and first thing she does is put on MTV. My experience with MTV, I love MTV. I loved MTV when I was a kid. But I don't know if it was a Midwestern thing or an East Coast thing, but a lot of times, especially if I was at somebody else's house and they put on MTV, it was a no-no, and you got in trouble, and you had to shut it off. So we were very sneaky about it. You'd be sitting there and the parent would be like, you better not be watching that, I don't want you watching that. So it was very controversial at the time. And I'm not sure if they're going to go over that in the other books or mention that, and I'm not sure if it's a California thing, but in the book they kind of just like watch it willy-nilly, and the parents or the stepfather doesn't really say anything, or doesn't even know that it's on. So I'm not sure if they're going to address that, but that's the one thing that I was kind of like, I don't know about. But everything else in the book is really cool, really, really accurate to the 1980s. I did have pictures. I've lost them. I don't have the pictures, but I like she's very much like I was at that age, especially the way she dressed. So I really felt a connection to the character, and I really liked the book. It's a really good book. So if you have a 9-year-old or 8-year-old, I really recommend it. So let's now unveil our doll. So this is Courtney. We're going to take her out of the box. Like I said, I already took the book out of the box, so I've seen it. So we're going to look at Courtney now. I'm so excited. So this is Courtney. This is Courtney. And the thing about Courtney is you can either get her ears pierced or not pierced. I got her ears pierced. That's the other thing in the book that she does at one point. Her mother decides to change her hairstyle. So her and her stepsister and her go to the salon in the mall, and her mother pays for Tina to get a perm, which was very popular at the time. I had a lot of perms because I have very thin hair. She doesn't need a perm because she has very curly hair, but they suggest that she gets her ears pierced. And she got her ears pierced. I had mine done in 2nd grade, so I was the same age as her almost when I got my ears pierced. So it was a thing to do. It was a cool thing to do. It still kind of is, but most kids now have their ears pierced, so it's not a big deal. Some even have them done with their babies. So she has her ears pierced, and she comes with a bunch of earrings. So she comes with hoop earrings, a couple of different studs, and then she comes with these star earrings that you can hang on. And I like the stars because very fashionable at the time, very dangly stars. Big was in, big hair, big clothes, big earrings, everything was big. So this is Courtney, and she's dressed in slouchy boots, tights, an acid wash skirt, which I had the same sort of skirt, and like a kind of a crop top with a tank top underneath. And the cool thing, and it was a very Madonna thing to do at the time, but the reason you wore this so you could show your shoulder. You kind of showed your shoulder by pulling the shirt down, so that was a thing you did. And you wore a few layers, so you wore a tank top under here. So this is Courtney, and she has a scrunchie, which I'm gonna put her hair on in a side ponytail, like I have today. This is Courtney. So let's look at some of Courtney's accessories. Stand up. She's gonna stand, and these are her earrings. So let's look at some of her other things that I bought. So I have a pair of stonewashed jeans. Now, the thing about stonewashed jeans, they are tight and there's no pockets in the back. And the cool thing to do in the 80s was to roll up your pants. And you could do it two ways. You could either roll them up and they were tight enough to be tight, or what you could do, and they're kind of tight on her, so I can't really do it, but we would do what we called pegging. And what you would do is you would fold the pant over and then you would roll it up. So it would be tight and then it would kind of flare out a little bit. Loved pegging my pants. So these are her stonewashed jeans, which are really cool. To go with her stonewashed jeans, I also bought something that I had when I was her age. I had high top sneakers. And these were mostly made by Reebok. Reebok was the popular brand at the time. I wish they would put out some Chucks, because I love Converse All-Stars. But these are high tops. And the Reeboks had this, they had two Velcros at the top, and they had kind of a wrinkly toe. This isn't really wrinkled, but this is what high top Reeboks look like. So you wear your high top Reeboks with your stonewashed jeans, and you peg your pants, and that's the outfit I bought for her. There are other outfits, but I just didn't have the money to buy everything, so I'm just showing a few things today. And then we have something I really loved when I saw it, and I was so excited because I love these. And this is Courtney's lunch set, which is, she has a lunchbox. So Courtney is a gamer. She loves playing Pac-Man. Her friend Kip actually gets Super Mario Brothers. So she has, and she's 9 years old, so she's still carrying a lunchbox. So this is her lunchbox, and it is really similar. I actually have a Cabbage Patch Kid one that I can't find, that's somewhere, but this is her lunchbox, and it came with the thermos, and you screwed the top off. Now the thing I didn't like about this is you can't take the top, this part off, because this was where you would put the liquid, and this little brown thing would pop open, and that was your spout, and you would pour your drink into here and you would drink it from there, or you just drink it from the spout. But I wish that had come off, but it didn't. So, but it's still cool. It's really cool because the handle lifts up, it opens up, and you can put her drink in here. And she comes with some food. So she comes with a bologna and cheese sandwich. And at the time, we weren't really health conscious. Everybody was working. It was really busy. So you just kind of did what you did. There was no wheat. There was no whole grain. So most kids ate peanut butter and jelly. There wasn't a big peanut butter allergy at the time. So a lot of people ate bologna and cheese. So this is her bologna and cheese sandwich on white bread. People were still eating white bread. So that's her sandwich. A Little Debbie snack cake, little brownie that she has with little sprinkles on top. Not the healthiest lunch, but like I said, it was the 80s. We were exercising, but we really weren't into healthy eating. They had to put something in here, so they put some apple slices. And the piece of resistance that I love about this set is that she's got cheese puffs. Now, if you notice, the can is blue, and it says cheese puffs, but they're actually cheese balls. And I love cheese balls. Planters used to make these. They came in a blue can with a yellow lid, and they were really good. They were really fresh when you open the can. So the can does open, which I thought was awesome. And she's got her cheese balls in here. She loves cheese balls. That's what I loved about this about this set was like, oh, this girl, like, she's everything that I've wanted. And she eats cheese balls. I love cheese balls. So the cheese balls really did it for me. The cheese balls and the acid wash, I was done. And the lunchbox. That was like, I'm done. I'm done. So I really love the set. I was really happy with it when it came. Can't really close it very well, but it's okay. Let me just throw the apples away. we'll eat out of the bad stuff. But yeah, so that's for lunch. Love this. Love the lunchbox. Love the set. Love the doll. Love the book. Can't wait to see what else they come up with. What else they bring out for her. So that's it. So happy Toy Tuesday, guys, and make sure you subscribe to my blog, and make sure you follow me on Twitter. Okay, bye guys. Happy Toy Tuesday.